301 CE. Across many cities of the Roman Empire, inscribed price lists appear in public places. Diocletian's edict on maximum prices, over 1,000 line items covering foodstuffs, clothing, freight rates, skilled labor, and even enslaved people, each with a legal ceiling. Violators face death. Emperor Diocletian has implemented a sweeping ceiling price edict to halt price spirals and profiteering in a collapsing monetary system. For decades, inflation has ravaged the empire, prices rising so fast that soldiers' wages become worthless before they can spend them, farmers abandoning fields because crops sell for less than seed costs. Diocletian's approach: if runaway prices are destroying the economy, control the prices. If speculation is causing chaos, eliminate speculation. If the market has failed, regulate the market. The results would be mixed, uneven, and ultimately unenforceable. The experiment reveals what happened when the ancient world's most powerful empire attempted comprehensive price regulation during economic crisis. To understand Diocletian's drastic response, we need to see how deep the crisis had become. The Roman Empire of 300 CE bore little resemblance to the prosperous state Augustus had left 3 centuries earlier. The 3rd century crisis had shattered imperial stability. Between 235 and 284 CE, over 50 men claimed the imperial title, counting both legitimate emperors and various usurpers. Most died violent deaths within months or years of assuming power. Armies spent more time fighting each other than defending frontiers. This political chaos had devastating economic consequences. Long-distance trade became more difficult, riskier, and less predictable as security deteriorated. Cities that had flourished under the Pax Romana contracted as commerce became fragmented. Agricultural production declined as farmers fled warfare or were recruited into competing armies. The military budget exploded as emperors competed for soldier loyalty through higher pay and bonuses. But higher spending required more revenue, and the empire's tax base was shrinking as the economy contracted. The solution, debasing the currency, created a vicious cycle where inflation made military expenses even more expensive. By Diocletian's accession in 284 CE, some widely used coins had fallen to around single-digit silver content, sometimes near 5%, compared with the much higher silver standards of earlier centuries. The scale of monetary manipulation was unprecedented. Archaeological analysis of coin hoards reveals systematic reduction in precious metal content across successive reigns. Under Marcus Aurelius in the 160s CE, the silver denarius maintained relatively high silver content. By the 240s CE, it contained much less. The new Antoninianus, supposedly worth 2 denarii, actually contained less silver than the old single denarius at its peak quality. Emperors weren't just reducing silver content, they were issuing coins at vastly greater quantities than before. The money supply expanded dramatically while the precious metal backing contracted. Citizens responded predictably. Those with access to older, higher quality coins hoarded them. Markets increasingly demanded payment in goods, gold, or foreign currency. The imperial monetary system was fragmenting into local arrangements based on whatever people would accept as valuable. Barter and payment in kind became more common alongside coin. Some modern estimates suggest prices may have risen many times over the previous century, but the increases weren't uniform. Essential goods like grain might triple in price while luxury items became essentially unavailable. Regional variations were enormous as local conditions affected both supply and monetary acceptance. Rome's experience demonstrates a crucial pattern. When a state creates money faster than its economy can absorb it, without restoring production, trust, and fiscal balance, inflation follows. Diocletian approached governance differently than his predecessors. Rather than seeking quick military victories or temporary fiscal expedients, he implemented systematic reforms designed to restore long-term stability. His administrative restructuring divided the empire into more manageable units with clearer chains of command. The tetrarchy system created 4 co-emperors responsible for different regions. New tax systems attempted to base revenues on actual economic capacity rather than traditional assessments. Military reforms separated civil and military authority to prevent generals from using armies for political purposes. Bureaucratic expansion created professional administrators responsible for specific functions rather than relying on amateur aristocrats. The Edict on Maximum Prices fit within this broader program of comprehensive reform. Diocletian wasn't just addressing inflation, he was attempting to restore predictable governance across all aspects of imperial administration. The edict's preparation implied unprecedented data collection. Imperial officials compiled price information from markets across the empire. They categorized goods by quality, origin, and seasonal availability. They calculated transportation costs for different routes and cargo types. The final document covered over 1,000 items with specific maximum prices and wages. Ancient sources preserve examples of regulated prices for food, clothing, labor, and professional services, ranging from basic commodities to luxury goods. It was an attempt to price an empire from the top down. Implementation revealed the gap between administrative ambition and practical capacity. The Roman Empire spanned roughly 5 million square kilometers with diverse local economies, languages, and commercial practices. Consistent enforcement of detailed price regulations across this territory was impossible with ancient communication and transportation technology. Provincial governors received copies of the edict with instructions for local implementation, but they also faced practical choices about which regulations to prioritize, how to handle borderline cases, and when to make exceptions for local conditions. A hostile near-contemporary Lactantius claims enforcement turned violent. Bloodshed over small violations, goods vanishing from open sale, and shortages worsening until the measure had to be dropped. While Lactantius was unsympathetic to Diocletian, his account suggests the practical difficulties of implementation. Other sources indicate varied responses across the empire. In certain areas, officials reported temporary price stabilization in major markets. Military supply contracts benefited from predictable costs in specific regions, but problems emerged quickly. In some regions, producers found they couldn't cover production costs at mandated prices and shifted toward alternative products or unofficial markets. In other areas, manufacturers began producing lower quality goods to maintain profit margins within price limits. Underground markets developed wherever official prices diverged significantly from production costs. Citizens who couldn't buy essential goods legally at controlled prices could purchase them illegally at multiples of the maximum rates. Quality goods disappeared from official markets, while inferior substitutes appeared at legal prices. Local officials faced impossible choices. Strict enforcement created shortages that threatened public order. Flexible interpretation undermined imperial authority. Most adopted pragmatic approaches that varied by commodity, season, and political pressure. Enforcement almost certainly varied, because the empire's markets, seasons, and administrative reach varied, making a single price list a blunt instrument for such diverse conditions. Major urban centers in the eastern provinces likely saw more consistent implementation, while rural areas maintained traditional trading patterns. Provinces with stronger administrative capacity could enforce more systematically, while peripheral areas likely had looser enforcement. The economic effects followed predictable patterns. Price ceilings below production costs reduced supply as producers found alternatives more profitable. When essential commodity prices were capped below farming costs, agricultural production shifted toward unregulated crops or unofficial markets. Quality deterioration occurred as merchants found ways to cut costs while technically complying with price limits. Ancient critics reported that regulated goods declined in quality. Bread might be sold at legal prices, but with altered composition. Wine might meet price requirements, but with reduced content. Substitution effects emerged as consumers adjusted to artificial price relationships. When certain goods were capped below market clearing levels, demand shifted dramatically, creating shortages of regulated items while surpluses remained of alternatives. Information problems proved insurmountable as administrators couldn't track constantly changing supply and demand conditions across diverse markets. Price relationships that made sense in one region might be completely inappropriate in another. The crisis context complicated simple economic analysis. The Roman economy was already severely disrupted when Diocletian intervened. Normal market mechanisms had been distorted by monetary breakdown, political instability, and military disruption. Price controls affected different social groups differently. Wealthy Romans with access to alternative currencies, stored goods, or underground markets experienced minimal disruption. Urban middle classes, dependent on monetary income and official markets, faced the greatest hardship. Rural populations, more integrated into local production and barter economies, saw less direct impact. Roman price controls occurred within broader Mediterranean economic networks. Egypt's grain trade continued feeding major imperial centers and military supply systems. Eastern merchants maintained trade relationships with Persian and Indian suppliers outside imperial jurisdiction. These external connections created theoretical pressures against the edict's effectiveness. Economic logic suggests that goods made artificially cheap within the empire would be exported to regions with higher prices, while commodities overpriced relative to production costs would be imported from areas without price controls, though documenting this at scale is difficult. The empire's integration into international commerce meant that domestic price regulations couldn't be isolated from global market conditions. This international dimension added another layer of complexity to enforcement. Contemporary economists study Diocletian's experiment as one of history's most comprehensive price control programs. Modern monetary systems differ fundamentally from Rome's metal-based currency. We manage expectations through central bank communication, issue government debt, and regulate financial institutions. These differences mean money creation can be non-inflationary in modern economies until supply constraints, trust breakdowns, or institutional failures appear. Modern price control experiences show similarly mixed results depending on context and design. The Roman case provides one historical data point rather than universal principles about price regulation. The edict appears to have been quietly abandoned or ignored within a few years as enforcement proved impossible and economic distortions became unmanageable. No dramatic repeal occurred. The regulations simply faded from practical application. Currency reform proceeded with Diocletian's coinage changes, including the high silver argentius, and later under Constantine, the gold solidus helped stabilize currency. Administrative reorganization created more efficient tax collection and military supply systems. These deeper reforms addressed underlying problems that price controls had attempted to manage through surface regulation. Military expenses continued consuming enormous resources, but improved administration made tax collection more effective. Political stability under the Tetrarchy reduced the destructive civil wars that had devastated the 3rd century economy. The fundamental fiscal and monetary problems that had prompted price controls were gradually addressed through comprehensive reform rather than continued price regulation. Diocletian's broader administrative changes proved more successful than his specific attempt to control prices. Diocletian's experiment demonstrates both the possibilities and limitations of comprehensive government economic intervention during crisis conditions. The empire successfully implemented detailed price regulations across vast territories with ancient technology and administrative systems. The program achieved some short-term objectives in specific regions while creating significant distortions and enforcement problems. Results varied dramatically by location, commodity, and local conditions. The ultimate failure of price controls didn't destroy the empire or prevent successful broader reforms. Rome continued for several more centuries under the administrative systems Diocletian established, suggesting that unsuccessful economic policies don't necessarily doom functional institutions. The experiment provides evidence about the practical challenges of price regulation: information problems, enforcement limitations, quality deterioration, substitution effects, and unintended distributional consequences. The Roman experience raises questions that remain relevant for modern economic policy.